Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Mastery Unleashed podcast. This is session 2 of a 3-part series where I have the pleasure of introducing some amazing entrepreneurs. People who have been inspired to share their most personal journeys, stories of resilience, transformation, and triumph. Each one of these authors share and reveal actionable strategies and hard-won wisdom to help you navigate on your own challenges and step into your next bigger story. And so first, I want to introduce you to Sue Mandel. I've known Sue for quite a few years, and we have our own cool story how we met. I don't want to get into that right now, but Sue is truly inspiring. She is a great business entrepreneur, and she has an amazing heart. And so I want to go ahead and introduce you, Sue, have you step on stage, and you can share a little bit about your story and why you're so passionate about sharing it with our audience.
Christy, thank you so very much. I really appreciate that. You know, when I was 29 years old, you really couldn't handle me. I worked in a Navy town. I worked with a lot of sailors. I was a happy camper. I was having so much fun until I wasn't anymore.
Mm.
And I was visiting my friends and her husband. I was spending the weekend. And it was 6 o'clock in the morning. And her husband was coming down the stairs, and I'm seeing him. And he looked at the kitchen clock, and I looked back, and there was nothing but pure contempt on his face. And I got to tell you, that is the first time I have ever felt what somebody saw when they looked at me. I had been doing drugs and alcohol for 24/7 for so many years. I don't know. I could tell you that I was 5'7", actually 5'8", and I weighed a glorious 123 pounds. So that might give you a little idea about the lifestyle I was leading, and it was not phenomenal. But by God's grace and a lot of hard work, I have an amazing life today. I was able, with a lot of work, to get sober and stay sober. And with God's grace, in a couple of months, it's going to be 38 years. Can you believe it? You know, there was a time where I didn't think I was going to be able to look up and reach high as the gutter. And now it's 38 years later. I have been blessed, so very blessed, to care for my mother in her last days. She was my best friend. People like me don't get to do that, you know? And my father. I was a daddy's girl, and I got to hold his hand when he took his very last breath. People like me don't get to do that. We die alone in the gutters. And if we're lucky, somebody finds us before we're unrecognizable. And then, for 60 years, and that's a 6-0, I had no relationship with my brother. We spoke and we were friendly because we were siblings, but that was it. And we learned to become friends by communicating, by learning to understand that the things he did to me all my life that made me crazy had nothing to do with me. It was all him. It's all his personality. I could have been a rag doll he was talking to, and I can still be a rag doll that he's talking to, because what he says, it's not personal, it's personality. And I have taken what I have learned in my life into my business. I have managed to stop in its tracks those conversations that are going to go sideways with the boss, and turn them into constructive back and forth communications. I've learned how to do this with the tools I've learned from recovery and neuro-linguistic programming and personality science. And I know just from recovery, when I shared about how I was able to stay sober, losing not one, but both of my parents, and being so close to them, And I got to stay sober. And people came up to me after I would speak and say, "You have no idea when you spoke 10 years ago and you told me how you stayed sober. I got to remember that when my mom was dying." And see, that's what I get to do today. I have such an incredible life. It is so full of joy and I just can't even describe it. This is the kind of life that I never thought I deserved. And I do. And I get to work for it every single day. And I have the most amazing tools. And I want to invite you to share these. I really do. We have communication mastery. It sounds big. It's just like Mastery Unleashed. It's huge. But when you take it step by step, it is so easy. And I want to show you how I went from a drunk who didn't know if she could reach the top of the gutter to somebody that could speak in Washington, D.C., that could pass government background checks, that have helped people learn to stay sober and sane when they've lost loved ones. And I've managed to climb the ladder of 3 careers to the top. This is the girl that couldn't see past when my next drink was going to be. And that is so not my life today. It is so not my life today. And I want to share with you what I have. I have a list of communication mastery tips that you can get. And Christie's going to show you exactly where to find that, where you can stop that conversation from going sideways in its tracks and turn it in the direction that is going to be a win-win-win. I would love, 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 love for you to take a look at this list. And if even one person gets use out of this, finds value, and I know it's going to be more than one, but the one finds value, it's worth everything, every minute since I got sober. And I'm so grateful to be here. And all I want to do is share what has worked for me. Christie, thank you so much for having me on today. I cannot tell you how much it means to me to be a part of this. You're muted.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Sue, what a story. I've heard it so many times, and every time I hear you share your story, it still touches my heart. And I don't know, audience, what do you think? I mean, wasn't this just amazing? Sue has done a lot to be able to make complete changes in the lives of the clients and the people she works with. And I am just honored that she's going to share this guide with our audience because her tips to help you learn how to master your communication styles and kind of do it from everybody's individual personality. Because I know that's the key to this, right? Everybody needs to communicate with another person based on how their communication style is. And if we learn that, we can be so much more successful. So does that summarize your gift, Sue? I want to make sure that everybody has a good grasp of what it is that you're sharing with them.
It is. And you did a remarkable job filling in the spots I missed with the personality. So thank you, Christie.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Sue, I want to thank you so much. This has been a journey. We're going to continue our journey. I know that. And I just keep cheering you on as you make an impact in the world. So continue to unleash your mastery, Sue, my friend. Awesome, awesome. All right. Well, next I want to bring Tim Ferris up on stage. Tim has been an amazing part of my life in just a few, I think maybe 5 months or so. We were introduced through a friend, and he has just inspired me on his vision and what he is doing in the world. And a lot of what he's doing has to do with communication as well, but it's a little different. And his story is just as impactful. So I want to welcome you, Tim, to our book project. And I want to invite you to share a little bit about your story with our audience today.
Thank you so much, Christie. It's wonderful to be with you. And Sue, what an amazing story. I'm glad I get to follow you, and you inspired me. So, just a few years ago, I found myself on the lonely end of a midlife crisis. My job had ended. the marriage ended. And I found myself asking, why? Why, after decades of working with people and inspiring people to have better relationships, ever since I was a camp counselor around the campfire as an 18-year-old and trying to help my kids have better relationships at camp, why is it after all these decades, I end up in this situation? And I found myself with this question: why are we so good and bad at relationships? And why is it sometimes the harder we try, the more things, well, don't go so well? And just a lot of questions like that. And so I found myself in this one of the lowest places of my life, asking that question, and hopped in my car and went to the mountains and began to live very simply and ski a little every day and wonder about how to answer that question, and then how can I share this with other people so that they can maybe not have to go through some of the things I went through, and they can have a better relationships. And so I ended up doing a lot of research, a lot of my own reflection. I did a lot of my own healing, and now I can say live a much better life, and I'm able to relate better with people, and much more self-aware in the process, and so on. I ended up putting together 3 frameworks that I teach people so that they can understand who we are, how we do relationships, and how we relate between us. And and I should also say, when I talk about relationships, I'm talking about relationships with song, SONG, self, others, nature, and God. So the more we relate in a more healthy way with all 4, the better we are, especially in relating with others, which is usually one of the biggest sources of joy and pain in our life, is those relationships with other people. And so one of the frameworks has, to simplify it, is basically, if you imagine a story bubble above our head, and that's the story and words going between us, right? But then we have our thoughts, our emotions, our body's energy, and ultimately under all of it is our soul. And so usually when we connect with people, we connect on the surface, word to word, story to story. Your friend says something about something bad that happens in their life or something trying, and we ask them a question about it rather than responding more to what's their perspective, how do they see things, and more to their heart, such as, oh, wow, you weren't expecting that to happen, and now you're just really frustrated and lost. That's responding to their perspective and their heart. And when you do that, they start responding closer in a deeper way to you. Can I tell you, our ultimate goal in relationships is to help the other person feel understood. That's our goal. And so you don't, just by saying a words, I understand you. I mean, like, never say that. It just doesn't work. I understand you doesn't work. I hear you doesn't work, because that's just words. Instead, respond to their perspective, respond to their emotion, and we are responding in a deeper way so the other person ends up feeling understood. And if you think about it, remember, as we keep going down, soul is under all of them. The deeper we respond, the closer we are to a soul connection. And when you make something close to a soul connection, people remember how you make them feel, or how they feel when they're with you. And so anyway, responding more deeply. Now, I still am a work in progress in this, but I keep working on it. And now I help entrepreneurs and small business owners create powerful business relationships that elevate their income and their influence. And I do that by helping. Now, I'm what people aren't used to, this kind of thing, but I am a business relationships coach. So I help you with your business relationships by helping you connect more deeply with other people. And so.
All right. Yeah. I mean, it's incredible how, when we are able to communicate with that person on a deeper level, how we all feel more heard, right? Like, when I talk to you and you feel more heard, then you're responding, and it just allows us to just kind of feel seen and heard, right? That's what we're all looking for, to be seen and heard.
Be seen and heard. And we crave being witnessed and validated in our life. And we're witness when somebody sees our perspective and sees our emotions and says something about, oh, can I tell you one thing really quick? And that is, give a guess as to what you think their perspective is and what you think their emotion is. But this is the best part. You don't have to be right. You can be completely wrong, but because you're trying to understand them, they will correct you and they won't be mad about it.
Right.
So you can think that they're mad in this situation. You can say, and they say, oh no, I'm actually relieved. And you say, oh, you're relieved. And you got it completely wrong, but they corrected you. And now they feel understood because you just responded back with what they corrected you.
Yeah.
So we can stop thinking about what should I say? What are the words I should say? Stop thinking about that. Just observe and respond what you see. What is their perspective and what's their emotions?
Yeah. Well, I know, Tim, you have an amazing resource you're sharing with our audience in the book as well as today on our show. It is a guide. So you want to share a little bit about what that is and why the audience wants to snag that from you?
In your business and in your life, your ability to relate with other people will make or break your business or your family or your friendship and so on. And so this is an elevate your impact and profit by building powerful business relationships guide. And in this guide, I give you the framework that I just explained very quickly and some techniques on how you can respond to people so they feel understood, and ways in which you can respond in a deeper way, which deepens your connection. You get closer to a soul connection. Your potential clients are more likely to sign up and pay you for your services. And they're more likely to stay around longer. Your team is going to work better, give you better results. And your family will light up when you get home. In fact, your teenage daughter might actually tell you what's going on in her life because you have the ability to respond in a way that she feels understood, and she begins to understand herself better.
Yeah, so much goodness in that. So much goodness. All right. Well, thank you so much, Tim. I know
Thank
I have
you.
learned so much from you just from our few months together, and I continue to look forward to being inspired by you and learning more as we continue on our journey together.
Absolutely. Look forward to it, Christy.
All right. Well, thank you, Tim. I want to bring Jane up on stage. Jane has been another inspiration in my life. We've known each other, gosh, Jane, couple years now. I think I don't even know exactly when it was, but we connected. We've done a couple things together. I was on your podcast. You were on my podcast. We decided to work together in this book project. And you are just a woman that has done so much in your life. And you have a huge passion now to help other women be seen and heard. A little differently than the way Tim is doing with relationship building, but in a way that allows them to just feel like they are becoming the woman that they were created to become. And you are a great example for me. And I look forward to having our audience learn from you, being inspired from you. And I want to invite you to share a little bit about your story and why you wanted to be a part of this project.
Well, thank you so much, Christy. And it's an honor to be here with all of you for sure. Uh, I am very influenced by words, and I want to start off with one of my favorite quotes from Anis Nim, who wrote, "And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than it was to bloom." And that is the essence of where my story goes. I have always lived in overdrive. And the title of my story, by the way, is The Dawning. And as I said earlier, I've always lived in overdrive. I come from a very ambitious family. And I started out my career, my professional career in the financial industry. And the financial industry, as most of you might know, is a very, very tough industry at the time and probably now, so is very male dominated. Needless to say, I was very successful. I had a career for 5 years. I was at the top of my game. But I found out that that did not resonate with my heart. This was back in the days when people didn't understand all of the neuroscience that we know today about frequency and being aligned with your greater good. And so I just up and quit, and everybody thought I was out of my mind because I had developed my business from scratch and was doing extremely well. Needless to say, that was the beginning of my journey. And my journey has been a winding one, which most people know at any age, whether you're 20 or whether you're in your 60s or 70s. And the road gets bumpy, but I'm here to say that we can learn to drive the curves and deal with the bumps. But how do we get there? So I started out as an entrepreneur after I left the industry, full of ambition, full of excitement, as any entrepreneur would be. And needless to say, that didn't work. And the doors closed on that business, and my heart sank. All the time and the money that was spent on getting this business off the ground and moving it forward, and years spent developing the product and taking it to market. And when the doors closed, it seemed like it took a little part of me with it. And my little voice, there's always that voice. Do you ever feel like there's that other voice inside of you that's nagging you on and saying, this is not the end, it's just the beginning? And so there was that thread that I held on to. Then the recession hit. And that was, my husband at the time was in the construction, the custom home building industry. And to say the least, it became a ghost town where we live. And there was nothing left, nothing, to the point that the phone would ring. We were in debt. Our house, the mortgage was due. We couldn't pay. There was absolutely nothing. And it was almost as though the vultures were just moving in to pick the pieces off the ground. And it was heart-wrenching. And we had to walk away from the house. Excuse me, that didn't bother me so much. It wasn't the material. It was the sucking of my soul that I felt when, all of these years of working towards something and having a home, et cetera, et cetera. And now it was just gone, and gone for purposes that weren't controllable. Exactly. That's life, SHIT happens, and it really does. And so therein lies another bump, a very big one. And financial, I guess when you have a crumbling of your finances, it really hits home. Needless to say, we walked through that. We were able to get through that. And the years passed. And then within 18 months, 3 family members passed. And this was not so far away from the recession. So to say the least, I was hit with 3 whammies. My sister always said, you're the queen of resilience. And I never even thought of myself as that way, because the death of those individuals hit home in the sense of our mortality. And why are we here? Why we are all here, I believe, for a reason. We are not here to just float through life. Yes, we have to deal with stuff that comes to us, and it makes us stronger, lifts us up, or takes us down. So I'm a great believer in our lives are either a record of the past or a roadmap to the future. And I have learned through my schoolings, my learnings. I took up yoga. I was in the film industry as a television producer. I have done many things. And I am now a podcaster. And so to say that I'm a queen of pivot is putting it mildly, but it also shows the resilience of where you find your gift doesn't always come to you on a platter. We have to search for it. We have to sometimes pick up the pieces and understand, where do we go next? And so I often say that our shadows are what we think we fear, but I believe deep down, many of us, especially women, because we wear many hats, that it is our light that scares us the most. And so what is that light? Where can we find it, and how do we resonate with it? Because I believe that that is why we were here. So when your energy, and I'm a big believer in the energy source and what we are. So when we align, we're always talking about alignment. When we align with our energy and the reason that we are here, that is when our future comes to us. So my question to you and all those here is, are you living your default vision or are you living your epic vision? Because one way or another, we are all living a vision or a story, if you want to put it that way. So I invite you here to discover your epic vision and your epic story. Wherever you are in your life, this is not an encore. This is not a repeat. This is a one-time shot, and I want it for you to be the best shot of your life. So this is for you. I am inviting you to gift yourself a 30-minute consultation with me so that we can walk through some steps and discover where you are and where you're going to go. I want you to understand that there is a vision for you, that first and foremost, be aware that you are here for a reason. And we are all here together. And like I said, the energy that is within you can be released. We just have to go through some steps to understand where it is and how to find it.
Oh my gosh, so much goodness there, Jane. I want to talk about your resource that you're sharing, or the
Right.
gift of your time that you're sharing in a moment. But I want to go back to a little bit of a few things that you shared. I love when you said our lives are just either a record of the past or a roadmap to the future.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Like, we can't go back and change our past, but if we can stay focused on the future, right? Like what that looks like. That was just really pivotal to me. I wrote that down. And I also really liked when you said that our light can be sometimes what scares us the most. And I've seen that over and over again. And I've witnessed it in my life.
Right. Yes, absolutely. I mean, our light it shines bright, but we often dampen it and we don't understand why. And actually, we don't even understand that we do have that light. So it really just takes a little bit of self-exploration. Vision is so powerful, Christie, as I'm sure you know. And what it does is it elevates you to step into a new day with movement. Because once we raise our energy, that is the frequency that is going out. I always say to everyone, we are broadcasting towers. So everything you feel is vibrating, and that is going out into the universe. Whether you believe it or not, your life is not a coincidence. All of these things that happen to us are not a coincidence. That is my belief. And whether it's here to make you stronger, smarter, more intelligent, it will provide you with the wisdom that you are here to learn so that you can share it with others, because therein lies our gift, is the power to share with others what we have learned and how we can continue to grow along the way.
Yep. So true. So true.
Yeah.
Every time I think of you, Jane, I feel like we're epic sisters.
Yeah, that's true
We
too.
do everything
I
together
love it.
epically. And I
Yeah.
did, we both actually just quit our jobs too. I guess maybe I did know that about your story, but we just both quit our jobs, not knowing what was next, but following our heart, right? What was better
Exactly.
or
Yeah,
bigger.
absolutely. Absolutely. So yes, being aware, vision, understanding, clarity, and accountability. Those are the four that we walk through and help you guide, get an idea of where you want to go. And from there, we continue on the journey.
Perfect. And you are sharing, I think one of the most valuable resources that any of us can share is the gift of your time. And thank you for that. And I just want to encourage the audience. If you do book time with Jane, please show up. And if there are no availabilities, because I know Jane is going to limit the amount of time in her calendar every week that she can share these free sessions, just be patient with her, and just, grab the nearest session you can and just appreciate all of the wisdom she's going to share with you. So thank you, Jane.
Thank you so much, Christy.
All right. Well, next I want to bring Vasu up on stage. Vasu is an amazing woman. Oh my gosh. I loved meeting her initially when we had our first conversation. And when I read her story, I was just, and I knew a little bit of her story, of course, because we spoke and she shared it with me. But reading it, I was just overcome with a sense of awe about what she has accomplished in her life and her mission now. And so I want to invite you, Vasu, to share your mission because it is powerful, and I've seen the work that you do, and you're building a movement. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about what that is.
Thank you so much, Christy, for inviting me to be a guest on your podcast. I'm honored to be here. I'm Dr. Vasu Tolia, a physician, visual artist, and a poet. My journey spans from decades in academic field, medical field, specifically in pediatric gastroenterology, and more recently, a passion for creating art that reflects themes of healing, peace, and cultural identity. Today, I combine my two passions, healing and art, by creating pieces that aim to uplift and soothe the soul. Sharing my story publicly was a deliberate choice rooted in a desire to inspire and connect with others. It made me feel both vulnerable and empowered. It wasn't an easy decision, but I realized that by keeping it to myself, I was not serving any purpose. And to spark the connection and inspire transformation was my goal for sharing this story. My journey from being a physician to an artist has been of reinvention, healing, and rediscovery. I chose to share it publicly because I have seen how deeply personal stories can resonate with others, helping them navigate their own uncertainties. As a physician artist, I have experienced the transformative power of art and storytelling in my own life. And I have realized that opening about my own journey from medicine to art and everything that has happened in between is to share the visions that people can have, the dreams they can reinvent and redream themselves. And even in my second stage of this journey, I have found that it is possible to rediscover a glory because I was at the top of my profession when I retired. And now I feel that I'm reaching new heights again, even in the career of art. And as I'm combining successful art um, shows and solo shows and everything with my missions for not only healing, but to bring peaceful environment in lounges and all that, because my artworks are in public spaces. But my biggest glory came in the time of COVID, when there was a call for COVID art, and one of my pieces was listed by Washington Post as the top 20 in the nation. And then CDC solicited that piece for the cover of the journal. And I felt my medicine and art came together. And that was really the moment of transformation for me when I started going from representational to abstract art. And I have not stopped there. I have now combined other missions for combining charities to become a lighthouse brand, so that whenever I sell art from my website, I donate a portion of it to several charities I'm associated with. So I encourage people who are thinking about decorating their spaces, whether it's a workspace or it's their home, to consider this kind of a piece that will make them feel like they are making a difference in the world to needy people, for needy causes, and things like that. So the inspiration to share my story has also come from the people I have encountered along the way, patients, fellow artists, and everyday individuals striving to find meaning and balance in their life. As a physician, I witnessed the incredible strength of the human spirit in the moments of vulnerability. And it was from a medical illness. And later, as an artist, I have rediscovered that creativity serves as a bridge to healing, not only for myself, but for others as well. And based on this, I was invited to give a talk at the World Health Organization about effect of healing on art. And I'm talking this year in June to a women entrepreneurs conference about what is the effect of art on the brain and how it can help you in everyday step-to-step journey so that you can de-stress yourself without getting burnt out.
Wow. Yeah. So I have seen some of your art and I've just seen some of your successes, some of the shows that you've had, and your art is just beautiful. I didn't know that one of your pieces was on the cover of CDC. That's incredible. Of CDC magazine, right? I think you
Yes.
said? Yeah, that's incredible. Incredible. So one of the gifts that I really love that we're able to share in our book is the resource that you created. And it's, first of all, it's beautiful, the resource you created, but it's also practical. So you want to share with our audience what you put together for them?
Yeah. So what I'm going to share is how to choose and display art like a pro.
Yes.
And this is a downloadable PDF, and it's going to walk people through essential tips for choosing pieces that resonate with their unique style, to mastering the perfect display techniques, and to ready to make their walls as inspiring as they are, and go on this journey. And writing this book was my way of weaving together these elements to show that creativity and purpose don't have an expiration date. Life is full of second acts, and I want to celebrate that message, encouraging others to explore their own potential no matter where they are in their journey.
Yes, I love that. Life is full of second acts. And so, hasn't this been great? Like, look at the amazing people that I was able to share today in the second series or second edition of a three-part series where I have the honor of just introducing our authors. This is the book. It's called Mastery Unleashed. It is filled with 15 stories, or 15 stories altogether. And it is just packed with wisdom, packed with inspiration, packed with tips, practical tips that you all can really apply to your life right now. And most importantly is the authors have shared free resources that you can all get by going to the link in our show notes, heading over to our gift vault, and then grabbing whatever resource you find is going to best help you in your season of life or your story right now. And so this really concludes this episode.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Oh, Siri doesn't understand, but I do. Siri just spoke to me. But this concludes this episode of the Mastery Unleashed podcast. I invite you all who's listening right now to please head over to whatever platform that you are catching us from, and show us some love. And if you are on Apple Podcasts, please go over and leave us a review. Reviews are really the power for podcasters to elevate their show and attract more listeners. So take a moment. Doesn't have to be a novel, but just share a few sentences on what you like about our show. If it's this episode or another episode, just please give us love in that way. And then, of course, watch the last episode or listen to the last episode, and make sure you come back next week as we share more inspiring stories and additional free resources. So thanks, everybody. Most importantly, thank all of you authors for being here with me on this show, and of course, for trusting in me to get your stories out in the world. So thanks, everybody. Big love. We'll see you next show. Bye-bye for now.